is Russ Cloudis, and I'm with the SERVEaustria team. We're growing now, really strong this year. We are in Vienna, predominantly focused on leadership training, discipleship among the young people, young leaders, what we call them, and also the young adults. We also have an outreach program with teenagers, and also a unique opportunity among people from the Far East, refugees from a more Muslim background. So the reason we're there is to lead people to Jesus Christ and to predominantly help the next generation find discipleship and disciple others.
I've only been in Austria and Vienna for about 6 months now, and I've had a chance to meet a few young women and come alongside them and just hear what's going on in their lives. One in particular, this girl, she's had a rough background and just a hard life from some choices her parents made that affected her. But anyway, she's a fairly new believer from the past couple years, and she just started going to the church that I attend in Vienna. And so past month we've kind of met once a week and just gotten to know each other, and it's really just amazing when you just meet with people and the vulnerability that happens. And so just coming alongside her and get to hear each other's testimonies, and that's just encouraging to see what God's doing in the life of His people in Austria.
Before I went to Austria, I worked a lot with students in student ministries. And one of the things about student ministries is it's all about relationships. And you're given a huddle group and you're given a group of guys, and they say, go for it. Pour into these guys, love these guys, get to know them. And I did that. I did that for 3 years, and it was awesome and great. But then when I went to Austria, I wanted to do that same thing. I wanted to build into those relationships, and I wanted to get a group of guys and just pour into them and get to know them and get to know where they struggle and where they do well and what they're good at, encourage them and just help point them to the Lord. And what I've realized is that in Austria, it's not handed to you so easily. I wasn't given a group and said, hey, just pursue these guys, but I had to start from scratch and had a couple of guys and just had to meet people and get to know them and build into those relationships. And one of the things that I've realized is that, or been reminded of, is that relationships take a really long time.
You know, one of the best experiences we've had since we've been here was Lori and I decided that we would make an effort and we would go out to an all-German speaking church. You know, our German isn't so good. It's very, very beginner German. And so it was kind of scary. And we heard about this church called Tulpengasse, and we decided that we would check that church out. So we went there, just the two of us, walked in, and we were greeted in a very warm way. But I don't think they really knew what to do with us, so then we kind of stood around for a little bit. And then during a break, we got to meet the pastor, and after the service, we talked to the pastor and asked him if we could meet with him during the week. And he and his wife ended up inviting us to lunch at their house. And they both speak English, so that was nice. And but we stayed for 3 hours and just talked to them about what we're doing and what they're doing, what their goals are as a church. And when he asked us what we thought we'd be doing here, well, first of all, he had the impression that missionaries come to do evangelistic campaigns. And so he kind of went through a little bit of a talk about how that probably wasn't what was going to be the most effective thing here in Austria. And then he asked us what we thought we'd be doing here, and we said that we really have heard through everybody we've talked to that discipleship is the need here. And his eyes got really intense. I started to say really big, but it wasn't big, it was more intense. And he said, yes, that's exactly what we need.
So what does discipleship look like practically? Well, I've been leading a Bible study here recently and picked a guy to kind of co-lead with me. And he's a really great guy. He knows the Bible really well and very teachable. And I thought would be a really good candidate. But then as I started to get to know him, I found out that he was dating a non-believer. Not only that, but a few days later, after we kind of talked about him taking over for me while I was gone, found out that he'd gotten engaged with this girl, and I just I really like this guy, and he, really wanted him to take my Bible study, but just did not have a peace about it at all. And I've just seen the Lord work in that situation, and there, this just happened a couple of days ago, so we're still waiting and seeing, praying. Maybe she'll come to the Lord or whatever, but or maybe he'll have to, with courage, kind of step away from that relationship for a time. But yeah, that's a really common thing here. That is a huge issue here for young singles, that with such a small community of believers.
When I got to Austria, my friend Lucas, who's an Austrian, he asked me if I wanted to start a Bible study and help co-lead this Bible study with him, and that it would be mainly for the people in our church, but also for some other people that didn't have small groups, or people that we already knew, and just invite them in. And I thought that was a great idea, and I was really excited. And so we started this Bible study, and we have, every year we do this camp, and we have these young leaders who work at this camp, and we decided to take them into this Bible study and bring these young leaders who were in their late teens, early 20s, bring them into this Bible study and go through just what it means to be a Christian and what it means to have fellowship.
It was like our follow-up ministry to teenagers is still just a Band-Aid, because they really need discipleship, not the meetings, and the preaching, but they need one-on-one discipleship. And they really are like lost sheep without any shepherd, and they're just, they get a spiritual high maybe in the summertime at camp, and then during the year they have no Christian friends, and they lose their way. So if we can just get discipleship into our follow-up more and get our young leaders to catch the vision about discipleship, that would be it. Yeah, that's where we're at.
It has changed, and what I know of discipleship and ministry in Denton looks different than what it's going to look like in Austria. And learning that, and I'm still processing through that. Just what does discipleship look like here, and taking those principles from ministry in Denton and applying those in Austria. My focus is just contacting them throughout the week and meeting with them, going to have coffee or come over to my place, hanging out. And so taking just those principles from intentional ministry and discipleship that I've learned here in Denton and bringing those to Austria.
Yeah, we've been here about 5 weeks, and we had to come here during the Christmas season. I mean, I shouldn't say have to. It was great to come here during the Christmas season. And most people think about the Christmas season in Vienna as being, it's lit up with Christmas lights and there's Christmas marks everywhere. And I think I had that expectation too, that it would just be this wonderful place. But in spite of the beauty, I think what stands in contrast to that beauty is really how dark it is spiritually. And it reminded me all the more to pray for Austria and to pray for Vienna and for the people. And that this is why I'm here, to pray for the city, to help share the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and to help those believers that are here, to help equip them to better share the gospel.
So what does a church here in Vienna in Austria need? What are the needs of the church? And they've all said the same thing, and that's discipleship.
Please be praying for the believers here, that they can can really trust the Lord to provide for them in all of these things.
The folks here don't really understand what that means to meet one-on-one with somebody else and help them understand how to apply the scriptures to their own life.
We have the good news. God has called all of us out of the darkness.
And we just covet your prayers that we would continue to learn what the locals need, what the locals want, what the church needs, and be able to help meet those needs in just some small way, that God would work through this team.
Jesus said in Matthew 9:36-39, as he looked at the crowd and he was modeling for his disciples, he looked at the crowd and he had compassion for them because they were down and full of fear, and he could see right through them, and he said to his disciples, go into the harvest and pray for workers for that harvest. And as we go into the harvest, a lot of times we don't always know what to do, and we have to pray, Lord, send your workers into this harvest. He sends us, and sometimes he sends others also. So that's what we're all about.